Hi guys, and welcome to my YouTube channel. This is going to be the start of a series where I share with you all of my crafty activities. It's going to be a series. This video is going to be more of like a WIP parade to start off, so you can see what projects I've got on the go, and then I'll be able to update you, tell you what I'm doing, and just somewhere to share my crafty life. So I hope you guys like this type of video. I certainly really enjoy watching this type of video, and that's what's inspired me to start making the video. Now in this video you'll find my hand stitched items. So I really love and enjoy English paper piecing. I've got a hand applique project on the go, a couple of cross stitch and like embroidery projects, some crochet and also some knitting, which I've taught myself to do very recently with the help of my mum, mainly because I really want to knit some socks. I asked everyone in my family who's a knitter, can you knit me some socks, can you knit me some socks? And they was like, no, too hard. So I thought, okay, I need to learn to knit myself. So that's where we're at with that. I've only done my first knitted, I haven't even finished it, but I've started knitting, so we'll get on to that. So anyway, you obviously can find me here on YouTube. There'll also be a link in the description bar to where you can find me on Instagram. If there's certain parts of this video that you feel that you'll be more interested in, for example, just the English paper piecing side, then you can use the chapters which are down on the bottom of the video. Just to skip forward to anything. There'll also be a section on things that I've purchased, incoming goodies, and very recently I've been purchasing a lot of other people's projects. I don't know why. You'll see that I've got a lot of my own projects on the go, but I've started to purchase people's incomplete WIPs, and they're usually off quite elderly people who, in my mind, I make up a narrative as to why they've abandoned these projects, and it's usually because they're downsizing or they don't have the physical ability to complete the projects. So I've got 2 of those on the go at the moment, so I'm looking forward to showing you those as well. And I'll also be doing videos documenting the process so you can see how that actually goes. So we're going to start off with the hand quilting, hand stitching type of area first. So we'll start off with the only hand applique project that I've got on the go. Now this is a subscription box from the Queen of Fabric UK. It's a brilliant website and I really love her Instagram. It's a monthly subscription. You can start it at any point and it will just roll for 12 months, so I really liked that. I think started it in June. This is where the confession is going to come out now. So I started it in June last year and I haven't even completed the first month. I do really like it. I love the finished outcome, but I think I put it down because I've never done blanket stitch by hand before and I've never done hand applique, and I'm quite happy with how the applique has come out. But I think I'll just put it down. I'll show you. So just in an IKEA bag. I think I've done 2 or 3 blocks. So that's the first one. I think that was the first one that I ever did. And I am quite happy with, you know, the work that I've done. This is the second block. And I've tried to use like an accent or a contrast colour for the blanket stitch. I hope the lighting's okay. The window's just to the side here, so I think there is quite a bit of glare. Yeah. So this is done with Liberty and Shots cotton. Yeah, that's the only one I've done, so I've done 3. I think you get 5 to do each month, and then it turns into, you just piece those things together. There isn't any sashing or anything in between. So each month it just comes in a little wallet like this. I do open them every month, it's just sealed itself. So it comes like this every month. I obviously rip them open in anticipation to look at all the beautiful fabric, but it's just one that's been sidelined at the moment. But I really love how the Liberty is really nice and vibrant. You know, it's not the ditzy type of Liberty, the ditzy prints. But they're beautiful, aren't they? And every month, I think there's been a few repeats. I think that one's been repeated once, but they're just beautiful, so nice. Yeah, it's nice to have a different type of Liberty. I think the Queen of Fabric is quite big in Australia. They have a physical storefront in Australia. So yeah. Now the second project that I've got on the go is again another subscription. Now this subscription has actually finished, but lo and behold I haven't finished the project, which is fine because there's no pressure, and I think I do enjoy the excitement of starting a new project, which I think a lot of people also feel the same. So this is a subscription by Sew and Quilt. They're in the UK and you can do subscriptions with them. I think they have 2 or 3 different subscriptions, but they start in January and they only do places in January. Sometimes there's some left in February. But they run for 12 months and then it's finished. So with this one I actually bought the expansion pack to make it a larger quilt. So this is the Lucy Boston patchwork of the crosses. And it started in January of 2021 and I'm currently working on month July. So at the moment I'm just doing like the filler blocks. So this goes on the border. I'm sure if you're familiar with English paper piecing, you know the Lucy Boston. So I always start with, there's usually 2 or 3 main blocks and then you'll have to do various connecting blocks. And I think I always make the mistake of starting with the fun colourful ones and then I have to do the connecting blocks, which are generally, you know, mostly the same every month. So I should start with the more boring ones because I always want to use the Liberty and look at them. So I just have it stored in one of these pouches that I've made myself. The tutorial is on YouTube. It's a free tutorial by Erica Arna, I think her surname is. But yeah, really love her channel and I love her podcast as well, so that's what inspired me. So my completed blocks, I just keep them in here. So I'll just show you very quickly a couple of those so you can see. This is what I meant by the connecting blocks. And I don't know if I said it is Liberty, but it's a mixture of the quilting cotton and the Tana lawn. So they're lovely. If you would like me to, I can do a more detailed video of showing you all the pieces, showing you up close. And I have left the pattern pieces in the back, mainly because it comes with enough to do it. I will be saving the pattern pieces though and making a different EPP project with them afterwards. And if you don't know, that is what the quilt looks like. So the third EPP project that I've got on the go is again in a slightly larger version of the project bag. I really like these because it keeps all of the blocks that you've already done flat. And I just use some nice fat quarters. Generally these are, you know, from Hobbycraft. Now I've got a board here, so I'm going to put this one on the board and show it you on the board because I think it's all in various pieces. But it's a take on the grandmother's flower garden. Not the exact version, but you'll see. So this is, oh. I need to get, this is a backing for a jigsaw board. I need to get something more permanent. So that's where I've got to so far. So as you can see, it's just got the triangles. In a traditional grandmother's garden, you would have another row of hexes going between. But I just really love the contrast. I think they're reproduction 70s fabrics, but I like that. These are 1 inch hexes and then 1 inch triangles. And I'm doing this kind of with scraps. I did buy the scraps intentionally though, so that's a bit more progress there. So I'm doing the centre flowers. In these ones I'm removing the backing from the inside because I don't have unlimited supply of these hexes. I'm doing different colours in the centres, but it will only be a limited selection. I hope you can see that, and it has been creased in the project bag, so I do apologise for that. Now let me show you what fabric I'm actually using. So again, I'm just keeping it in a Haribo tub. Because I haven't got a dedicated desk, you might have watched my previous video or you might be new to the channel, but I've recently had to give up my craft space because I've started a business in that room. So I have all these projects all over the place. I've got like a dresser downstairs in the living room, and underneath used to be board games, placemats, but I've just taken over it with boxes of fabric. Underneath my bed is all my fabric, so it's just shoved into any nook and cranny. So I just find storage boxes that will stack nicely. I know they don't look great, but they're just shoved in a cupboard. Now these are the paper pieces from Sew and Quilt here in the UK. So these are the diamonds, 1-inch diamonds that I'm using. I have got the triangles somewhere. The triangles must be downstairs somewhere. But you can buy these shapes in different quantities. So this is 1-inch hexagons, and there's 500 in there, and they're quite good value, to be honest, and they're really nice thick quality, and I just keep them in these. So this is where you can get the subscriptions from. They do sell all sorts of fabric as well, but they do a lot of paper piecing notions. And then in here, so I bought on Etsy a scrap bundle of this fabric. So I've got all sorts of different sizes, colours. Some of it has got a hem on it, so all I've been doing is ripping open the hem, discarding if it's like ruined with stitches or anything, and just reusing it. I don't know how big it will get, but when I bought these scraps I also bought some fat quarters. So I've got some that are less repetitive, which is the scraps, and then the fat quarters I'll just try and integrate into it as well. Now whilst we're talking about scraps, that is mainly what I love English paper piecing for. A lot of my projects, even when I buy new fabric, it's scrap fabric from Etsy. It's all I search for, scrap bundles. Oh sorry, the camera's wobbling. And all of my projects that I do, so the quilt subscriptions, they always send you more than what you need. And I've done a couple of completed projects in the past, and I've got loads of fabric. I rob loads from my mum. She doesn't do a lot of sewing anymore, she does a lot of crochet. So yeah, let me show you my truly scrappy project. Now this is done with 1/2-inch hexagons. So it's just randomly pieced at the moment. So these are the 2 panels that I've done. I'll show you them a little bit more close up. Oh. So they are just totally random, but what I find is you have to do the scraps with your colour scheme. So I do a lot of pinks, purples, greens. So I wouldn't, there are some dark blues in here. Look how lovely that looks up to the light. There are some dark blues in here, but I try not to dominate the project with darker colours, just to keep it all looking really nice. And this is how the back looks. I love the back. I think a lot of people who do English paper piecing really love the back. And then it's a smaller one. Again, I've took the papers out. I print these papers myself, just with regular cardstock. I think I'll try and use something that's less than 200 GSM, because otherwise it gets a bit too thick. And I've got bits that I'm working on. So those are, I pre-make the flowers, and I've got that folded over because that's the placement where I want it to go, so I don't want to lift that up. There you go. I love scrappy quilts. So all I do is I have a little tin, needs upgrading to be a bigger tin, and all I do is sorry, I'm looking out the window. All I do is I curate my scraps, and then I just stick them in here. I do make a bunch up, but I left that, my little storage downstairs, and I glue based. Again, if you'd like to see any more in-depth or detailed in action or showing you how I do it, then just let me know, and I'm really happy to do more videos along those lines. I think I've got one more actual project in the go, and then I've got a few abandoned projects along the sewing lines. So I've got another English paper piecing project. I started this was I think my first EPP project. It's not really the colours that I like, but it's more of like a wintry colour, and I told myself at Christmas I'm definitely going to get into this project because it was Christmas colours basically. But I didn't. I was really busy with my shop, and I didn't do this. So again, let me lay it out on the board and I'll show you. But the pattern I think is called Stars in the Garden, so it's flowers and stars. So let me show you. So I can't fit too many on the board, but I have done about twice as much as this. So you can see it's dark greens and dark reds, pinks. But again, I've tried to do this as a scrappy nature. I don't tend to do quilts that are just one fabric line. I would love to, but I find it a little bit more difficult to access fabric lines. They're quite expensive, so I generally try and just pick a mix, match what I can. And that's why I also do scraps, because when I want to use a fabric line, for example Tilda or Liberty, I like to just use scraps. And those types of fabrics, they're all interchangeable, aren't they? They design them so well that they just go together. So that's what I've done so far on that. I do really like it, and one thing that I should say is that I'm going to do a light pathway between them, so there'll be another hexagon pathway between them, and I was thinking maybe a light pink or a blush pink, because it will pick up the pinky tones. Now I've been storing all of my fat quarters that I've got, or just random bits that I pick up, in here. So it's like my little curated bundle of fabric. Some of them I got from the Queen of Fabric actually. That was the first order that I placed with her. Again, I bought my, oh sorry, it's not, did I say it was 1/2 inch hexagons? It's not, it's 3/4 inch hexagons, and I got them from Sew and Quilt. And I bought some really nice fabric, that's why I'm quite excited about these. I was just in a random wall shop and she had these fat quarters, and I thought they're lovely. They go really nicely with this, and I hadn't found any green. I think it's because I don't gravitate towards green really. Let me just pull them out. I think that's Liberty, I'm not sure. Sorry, I was frowning then. So yeah, I really like that bundle, and I do like the colours. It's worthwhile trying to push outside of your colour comfort zone, especially if it's Christmas related or a different type of event. I don't know whether I'll keep the quilt myself. I don't know. The main thing is I want to get it finished. When it will be finished, I don't know, but I don't put myself a timeline on any of these quilt projects. Now I just wanted to show you this because I really want to do something with this. Now this is an abandoned project. I've just done this panel. Now this is the type of fabrics that I love. Let me put the board behind it so you can see a little bit better. Again, this was just a scrap bundle of fabric that I picked up on Etsy, and I think they were just called Ditsy prints or something. I think I put a few of my own in there, but there was pre-cut hexes, so I had to do something that was hexy. I think they're 1 inch, and it come with the papers as well. And I just use equilateral triangles. My first idea, well, when I was doing this, is I wanted to make a bag with it, like a project bag, but then I thought that's so light. What if it gets so dirty? I'll be annoyed. But I don't know. I like that one. That's probably my favourite hexie. And that is all of my EPP projects. I have got one other like stitching project that I want to show you that's again abandoned, because now that I've pulled everything out, I'm certain I'm going to finish this. Now, this is a mini quilt that I did. You can see all the details, all that quilting is catching the light. Now, this is with Liberty fabric that I bought scraps from Alice Caroline when she was at the quilt show in Birmingham. And all I need to do, the back is a bit of a mess, but it's going to be a wall hanging, so you'll never see that. I need to bind it, but I need to take this off and that button because they're too close to the binding. And then I'm going to bind it, and I'm just going to put a loop on the top, and I might pop it here because I've got some other mini EPP bits there. That isn't EPP though, that was done on the machine. Now, to show you some of my other hand stitching and like embroidery category, I've started this project bag, and again this was a workshop that I did at the Festival of Quilts in Birmingham, and it was on negative space French knots. I'd never done a French knot before, so all of those are French knots. And then what I'm going to do is, once that's finished, well, once the outline is done, I'm going to like disperse some French knots around the edge. So what I'm using for this is I am using an embroidery hoop because I find it better to keep the tension tight. And then I'm using pearl cotton that's in like a really nice variegated colour. I hope that's picking up. And I am quite low on this. I only bought one ball, so I think it's downstairs. It's all over the place. I bought a DMC variegated floss that's quite close to this. You can see how little was left. You can see the band inside. Yeah, so I've got a DMC that's quite close colour variegation, so I'm going to start blending that in before I get too far. Now, another hand stitching piece that I've got was influenced by Emma Vintage Sewing Box. I actually bought the same one that she was doing. I thought that's gorgeous, I've got to have it. It's a sashiko panel from Japan Crafts. Just caught some of the fraying in the zip. So let me show you. I think I'm probably like halfway done, maybe less. That's what I've done so far. So as you can see, you go like different ways. You can still see some of the friction marks. It tells you not to iron it, so I assume it's the type of marks where it erases. And that's the back. I quite like the back. It's just been folded for quite a while, so a good press, I think. But I think it will always have that wrinkly look because of how many stitches. It's like quilting, isn't it? It wrinkles up a little bit. So that is, you can choose the colour bases, you can choose the colour of the thread. So I went with the pink thread, and they also send you some sashiko needles, and they send you instructions, but the instructions were in Japanese, so I downloaded the Google Translate on my phone, and you can actually scan it and it will translate it for you. I threw the instructions away though because they were quite straightforward. And I have a needle minder, which is a jammy dodger. I love it. I think that shop, is it Chapel View Crafts, I think? You probably know of it if you're in the market of needle minders. And then finally I've got a cross stitch project on the go. I was actually working on this last night. Now this is by Body Threads. Again, it's just in a plastic bag, so sorry about the crinkling. So this is the pattern that I'm using. It's on 14 count Ada and using 2 strands. And I've done cross stitch in the past. I've only done a few, but I've never done one where it's like so watercolour effect. It's a Rendale design and there's a lot of colour changing and like, is it called confetti or speckles or, yeah. The canvas is pre-speckled, so just to warn you if you're wondering what it all is. So I have done quite a bit. I was doing this is the ear last night. As you can see, I was previously had it in a hoop, but then I watched a video about doing the sewing method where you do it in hand, and it was a lot faster, but I had to rip a little bit out. I ripped a little bit of the beige colour out because it was just a bit messy. I think it was because my thread was getting tangled a little bit. I don't think it was to do with the technique, but yeah, I really enjoy that. It's just one of those things where I stitch on. Now, story about this is probably the gateway to all of the slow stitching that I've started, because one day in the start of lockdown, so that's when I started doing EPP, I don't think anyone else was home. I was sitting at home, it just come up recommended on YouTube, Emma Vintage Sewing Box, and I was stitching on this, and she was talking about slow stitching. She's got a video on how slow stitching changed her life, and I was watching that. I thought, what the heck is slow stitching? And I commented, I'm doing cross stitch, is that slow stitching? And she commented back, and then I just fell in the loophole of yeah, English paper piecing, and I've never looked back. I love it. So this next section is on my woolly projects. So I've got a completed item to show you, and I've also got some works in progress. So I did a crochet class. It was before the pandemic because it was an in-class thing that I went to, so let's say like 2018 or 19, and I picked crochet up and I sort of just put it down again. I don't know why, I just didn't get into it so much. I think because I was also doing paper crafts at the same time. But this year for Christmas I did pick it back up again this year. So for Christmas this year, me, my mum and my sister, we all crochet. We decided to do a blanket together as just like a Christmas activity. My mum bought my yarn and I bought my mum's yarn. I just grabbed the yarn that we used. So with this blanket we just used Hayfield's Bonus DK. It's really quite cheap. It comes in so many colours, so we could all use the same yarn, so we'd all get the same effect, but we could choose our own colours to suit what we liked. I think it's like £2 a ball, perhaps a little bit more depending on where you get it from, but yeah, I love it. So we actually did the Yuletide blanket by Attic 24. We just bought the pattern and then used our own colours. I think my mum actually bought a kit. She'd done this twice because she loved it so much. So here is the blanket. And then I did my own border. So I just did some trebles, a single treble, and then a wave border. I've got the tutorial from Bella Coco. Now this thing is absolutely massive, almost spans my Super King bed. It starts with a centre there, a square, and yeah, I did finish early. I think there was something like 76 rows, and let's have a look because my tension is a little bit looser. There was 78 rows and I finished on 68, so I stopped 10 rows early. But yeah, I love that. So because of that, because of this, we decided we wanted to get it finished for Christmas, but I only finished it around 2 weeks ago. Let me show you as well. I purchased a label for us all. Yeah, that's reverse on my phone, so I don't know if it's reversed on the screen, but it says Stitch Together Christmas 2021. So I thought that was just a brilliant memento just to have that on there. So for the label, I actually bought it from a place called Make It Personal. So that's the page there, Make It Personal. It's on Etsy, and I had to buy 10. It wasn't expensive really, I think it was like about £9, but it was a nice present to put for my mum and my sister as well. But now I've got all of these left. I was a little bit narrow in choices for the label because my sister doesn't have any leather products, so I had to get faux leather, which was, I think, maybe a little bit cheaper, I'm not sure. Second crochet project that I've got on the go, and was an existing WIP when I had this. Now this is the Battenberg blanket by Cherry Hearts. Now it's not much of a blanket but I really like it. Again, I'm just using the bonus DK. If I find any others while I'm out and about, this isn't a bonus DK, it's a different cheaper brand of wool. I've just been picking it up and putting it with this, and then I've been using her join as you go method, which I really like how it's got a nice texture on the back. Now I've got some made up, I just need to stitch them together. Because me, my mum and my sister all crochet, we call them WIP weekends, where one day, maybe one every 3 weeks or 4 weeks, we get together and we stitch together. So I might take this tomorrow because previously I was working on this big boy, so I might take this one tomorrow. Put that there. And then the knitting. So I told you about the knitting at the beginning of the video. So I think I'd learnt to knit in my teenage years. Again, similarly to the crochet, when I first started knitting, I just picked it up and put it back down again. So this is a big deal for me because it's going to achieve my goals of those socks, which I'm dying for. I hope I enjoy knitting socks after I've picked it up so much. Let me show you the yarn that I'm using because it's really, really nice. Again, I started this before the blanket, so the blanket kind of took over, but I picked it up this week. So it's King Cole Fair Isle, like a self-striping yarn. When you knit it, just, is it like a stockinette stitch where it's just knit, 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 knit? It comes up really nice. Mine hasn't quite come like that because I've done it ribbed. Because my mum thought it would be good to do knit, purl, so I can get used to it. It's a scarf, did I already say that? So it's got a lovely stretch to it, and it's all, yeah. I dropped a stitch here, or was it here? Dropped some stitches on the edge, and I was really proud. It was like 10 o'clock at night, so my mum was asleep. I don't live with my mum, but she lives close by. So I knew that I couldn't get her to fix it, so I went on YouTube and I learned how to pick up the stitches. So I was really happy with that. So you can see the yarn. I know that it's like a commercial dyed yarn, and I obviously watch so many knitting and crochet videos. I absolutely love hand dyed yarn, but I'm only relatively new to woolly crafts. I just can't afford or justify the price point. I don't know if I'd ever be able to. So that's what I really like about this yarn, that it's got some nice variegation and speckles to it that you would get with hand dyed yarn. And I've just got it in a sandwich bag. I really need to up my project bag game. Now the last section of this video is going to be on, it's kind of combined, so it's going to be incoming goodies and also like restoration of other people's WIPs. Now I'm going to class these just for this week as the same because they're relatively new to me. So I've got a English paper piecing quilt top that I bought, that I've had it for a couple of weeks, and I've also got a tapestry that I think I bought last week or the week before. So I'm really excited for those. Let me start with the English paper piecing quilt top because, yeah, really like that. So anyone in the UK, I knew how old this quilt top was just by the carrier bag. So it's an old Woolworths bag, and I'm going to keep it in this bag. It does smell a little bit musty though. Now this quilt top needs finishing, and it also needs an awful lot of repair. Here's an overview. So what I'm going to do is I'll lay the quilt over and I'll show you some footage of the quilt so you can see it in all its glory. Now I'll tell you a little bit about this quilt. So I bought it off eBay. It was relatively cheap. It was around £30 with the delivery, so I really liked that. The quilt top, as far as I know, the person who I purchased it off, in their words, a little old lady down the road. She was in her 70s and it was purchased in the early 70s. So they believe this quilt top to be made in the 60s, and she sold it because she was downsizing. She didn't have the space. I think she said the lady who I bought it off had also bought another one at the time. So hopefully in this footage I'm just showing some of the, I don't think it's damaged, but it's just poor quality stitching. The cream isn't made with quilting cotton. It's a different type of fabric. I'm not quite sure what it is. There are still some paper pieces left in the project. They're quite thick. But yeah, I really adore the prints. And what I'm hoping to do is I'm going to fix all of the holes, obviously. I think I might just use a ladder stitch from the back, because that's quite invisible. We'll just pull it all together. So I'm just going to use a ladder stitch, and that will just pull it all together from the back. I don't think I need to go over every seam, but I certainly need to. There's quite a few holes and the corners aren't that strong. Obviously when I then quilt it, that will give it a little bit more rigidity, strength. But yeah, I'm going to hand quilt it. I'm going to get a nice backing for it, but it's going to be something that's in progress. But I will be doing videos of this. Now this next project is a tapestry project, and it's kind of like a bumper 2-in-1. So I'll tell you first of all how it became about. So I purchased this tapestry. It's been folded up in my drawer years ago. I think that's the wrong way. That's the right way. That isn't that beautiful, and it's massive, but it isn't finished. The background isn't done. So I knew that I needed to do that. Obviously because I do cross stitch, I thought, oh, I can quite easily turn my hand at tapestry. But I'd researched and I knew that I needed a frame for something this big, realistically. So I set about looking at getting a frame, and to get a good quality one, they're expensive. So I looked on eBay, and there was a lady selling one quite close to where I live, for quite affordable amount, with a half-finished project. So again, I'll overlay some footage because it's quite a big project. So this is her half-finished project. It's going to be a cushion, and I will make it into a cushion. She's probably 95% completed it, and I'll show you that. But in here, she's sent me home with all of the yarn that I need to complete it, and more, I think. So I really liked that idea of getting the frame, because then once I've got the frame, I can do the first tapestry that I've shown you, but this one's practice. And I'll also get to practice on finish it into a cushion cover, which I'm a little bit nervous about because zips make me scared. I don't know about you. So yeah, I'm going to aim to finish this one before I start the other tapestry. But it will give me some really good practice. She's finished most of it, and what I liked most about this project is I started stitching on the red border where I left off, because there was still some red thread dangling from the back, quite a long amount, so it must have been the yarn that she was working with at the time. Again, sometimes when I do these projects, I don't know what that lady's story was. I picked it up from her directly. I didn't get the chance to ask her what had happened with the project, you know. She was quite elderly. That's the correct way to say it, isn't it? So I think maybe she just wasn't able to finish the project, and I really want to finish it for her. I'd love to send her a photo, perhaps even send it back to her if I can get back in touch with her. But yeah, I really like that. So that comes to pretty much the end of all of my work in progress that I have. I could probably find some more if I rooted around. But I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. It is my second video of this nature. I did one about 6 months ago, so I do apologise if there was a lot of and ahs and like fumbling around. I'll try and edit that out as best as I can. But yeah, please leave me a comment or subscribe if this is the type of content that you would like to see. If there's any more in depth of the projects that I've shown you, you want me to show you working on the projects, just let me know as well, and I'll be more than happy to do that. But I hope to see you again in the future, and happy stitching, and I hope you're enjoying whatever you're doing at the moment and you get those couple of hours that you want or need to do some slow stitching.